time to begin. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I am Deepthi Gubba. I am accountable for branding and communications at Gubba Pharma Cold Storage. I welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen, to this webinar on exclusive knowledge session on Carotar 2020 in specific to pharma industry application. Actually, Gubba Pharma Cold Storage is a cold storage company. Gubba is never and not into mainstream regulations. But since 33 years of our inception and serving food and seed industries, we have always believed contributing to the industry in a way of knowledge sharing and keeping in track of what's needed for you. In that attempt, we found Mr. Vineet Darda, who readily accepted to share his expertise. And here we present this webinar. And before we start the webinar, for the convenience of the smooth delivery of this seminar, all the participants are virtually muted. We request you to post your questions in the Q&A section, which you can find at the bottom of the screen. Your questions will be addressed in the last 30 minutes of the session. In case, if due to time constraints, all your questions are not answered, we shall get them addressed from the speakers and mail you. Now, to share a small thing about Mr. Vineet. Vineet is a qualified chartered accountant, company secretary, and CMA with 15 plus years of industry and consulting experience, 13 plus years in Big Fours, in the tax and regulatory services in leadership role. Vineet has worked and currently serving leading players in diverse industry sectors such as logistics, auto component, financial services, pharma, technology, infrastructure, and hospitality, mining, PSU, government, and other sectors for addressing their concerns under tax and regulatory matters. Now, before I give on this platform to Mr. Vineet, I would request Mr. Kiran Gubba to come on and share his experience, his commitment about pharma preservation. Over to you, Kiran.
Yeah, thank you, Deepthi, and good evening and namaskar. Since last, of course, ours is a 33-year-old company, and we are into preservation of seeds, chicken, butter, food, and also pharma. And second generation entrepreneur, I'm the CEO of the company. Last 50 years, pharmaceutical industry have set up their in-house cold storage or warehouse facilities because very less trust was delivered from us, the cold storage industry, to the pharmaceutical industry in the last 50 odd years since independence of little out there. Pharma is a different ballgame. You can't have any temperature excursions or any deviations in the SOPs. In food, it matters to some extent, but in pharma, no chance. Over a period of time, we did not gain, the cold storage industry did not gain the trust to the pharma industry. Last few years, maybe 5 years or so, slowly the Indian cold storage industry started gearing up and giving and looking at what's needed for the pharmaceutical industry. 3 years ago, we started this initiative. We started with a humble 4,000 pallets cold storage facility. Then it was the biggest in Telangana in those days. Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. A pharma compliant cold storage facility. Nothing else except pharma is being preserved there. It's been 3 years in our journey and close to 50 pharmaceutical clients. And we are now close to 8,800 pallets. And maybe in the next 6 months, we'll be close to 15,000 pallets or so. Biggest in South India by then, or second largest in India. We have gained the trust of the pharma men for the past 3 years or so. It's not just the cleanliness, the hygiene, or the temperature excursions. It's beyond that. Even the regulators. You can store your export-oriented goods. You can store your imports. You can store your SEZ, EOU, and so on. And we're proud that our technical team and certain robust systems which we have in place. Zero excursion in the last 2 years. Yes, we had a zero temperature excursions in the last 2 years, and that we are proud of it. And yeah, since post-COVID, pharma, food, a couple of industries have been on the center stage. And like other industries, we didn't had like the hotel industry or chair manufacturing industry or any other industry. We didn't had a luxury of sitting in the home and watching Netflix. I'm not saying things guys who watched anything against them, but we didn't have the luxury. We were on toes right from day one of the lockdown because we belong to that critical sector where we were servicing the pharma and the food industry. Yeah, going forward, yeah, we are now seeing the COVID vaccine. I mean, people are talking of the COVID vaccine hitting the markets, and we Gubba are like well prepared. Like we are close to 4,000 or 5,000 pallets of preservation getting ready from this November. Our vaccine compliant cold storage facility. It's either 2 to 8 or -20 or 15 to 25. Yeah, that's a little about us. And predominantly, we have been doing some, we keep thinking what's needed for the industry, what's needed for the pharma industry. In fact, with Mr. Vineet, we did a webinar a month ago on APIs. I mean, the new scheme, government scheme, which got formulated after post-COVID, the APIs, manufacturing of API scheme. And now we are talking about the Carotar. And yeah, we keep looking at what are we choose some niche and critical subjects which add real value to the industry. And yeah, I mean, I'll not take much of time, and because it's all the floor which is open for Mr. Dada. And I hope you also receive our Gubba Pharma news. We reached to close to 19,000 pharma fraternity across India and globe. And please do enjoy reading that newsletter. And Deepti Gubba is the lady whom you see on the screen is the editor for the newsletter. And yeah, we came 0 to 19,000 in the last 3 years, and we keep delighting you. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Vineet, and over to you, Deepti, to take it over. Thank you, guys. I hope you will take value. That's our commitment. I keep telling my team, कपड़े हमको पसंद नहीं आना है. हम जब इडली बनाते हैं हमको पसंद नहीं आना है. The client should like the idli. The client should like our clothes, and that's where the value lies. Over to you guys.
Great. Thank you so much, Kiran. Thanks for that introduction. I now call upon Mr. Vineet Suman to take over and present the benefits of Carotar to the pharma fraternity.
Thanks, Deepti ji, and thanks, Kiran ji. And obviously, yes, last month we done a webinar specific to the PLI scheme for pharma, and we can see the news coming where they are bringing one more scheme for a finished product and also a specialty chemical. So directly, indirectly, they want to cover each and every aspect from raw material to everything for pharma. But today, topic is very different. And yes, it will change, or it has already started changing the scenario, the way people are claiming the preferential rate benefit under various free trade agreements. Yes, today's topic, which we are going to discuss on Carotar, is a new regulation which came into effect from 21st September, and how it's going to impact an importer who is claiming this preferential rate benefit. If you see today, any importer who wants to import goods with concession rate, he will simply see who is a supplier in that particular country like ASEAN and SAFTA, or other where India have FTA. He will provide the order, and based on the notification giving the lower rate, mostly 0 or 25% of the total rate, he will get a country of origin certificate, and he will claim the benefit. His CHA or a custom broker will file the documents, and the benefit is with him. This picture is going to completely change from now on. Now, anyone wants to claim the benefit, he is liable. He is responsible for proving to authority that the exporter has taken the right decision, right action to satisfy the condition of respective FTA and have adequate documentation. Today, looking to this, we are going to discuss about what is a FTA or a PTA or CEP or CECA, the terminology which we are using, where India stands, how many we have, and how the weights are performing today. What are the key conditions which needs to be fulfilled by exporter when he is exporting the goods to India. Finally, the rules, carved out regulation. What will be the obligation of importer when he's taking the benefit? What declaration to be done in the bill of entry? And if I'm not doing all both of this, what is the impact of non-compliance? And last but not the least, we are going to discuss about the action plan, which importer, exporter from the FTA countries and the custom broker and CHA needs to take it. To start with, any trade agreements which are bilateral between two countries or multilateral by like a particular region like ASEAN or any other enforceable accord where two or more countries come together and say we will do a trade and commerce which are complement to each other. We are not competitive in that particular product. And mostly a mutually beneficial. Now question comes, what type of trade agreements currently exist in the world? You have framework agreement, which is entered prior to enter into any trade accords. You have early harvest scheme, where you decide particular products and it's a precursor to any FTA between two countries. Like India and Thailand have a list of around 80 products which come under early harvest scheme. So they can decide when the Thailand or India is going to be able to grow or produce, accordingly they can negotiate and take the benefit. You have a regional trade agreements called RTAs such as FTAs, which are the main going to be discussed point here. You have preferential trade agreements. And FTA and RTA, how are they different, we will discuss in detail. Then comes your comprehensive economic partnership agreement, like a complete deal where apart from goods, service, other trade and commerce come into picture. Then you have a CECA, Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. That's all about the type of agreements in the world exist, being a bilateral or a multilateral or based on regions. So how it came into existence? So WTO given guidelines called GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, and based on them, they permit FTA between two or multiple countries. So an FTA is a treaty, like a bonding or arrangement or agreement between two or more countries to facilitate trade. And trade is a major aspect to be covered. That's why in India, Ministry of Commerce is involved in doing all the trade agreements with other countries. To eliminate any trade barriers, because if you have any trade barriers between two countries, that can be removed by this FTA. And finally, to eliminate any tariffs from the day one or between 2 years, 5 years or 10 years, like we have with the Malaysia or Thailand or other Asian countries. And to create an open and competitive international market. And if you ask me, main objective is, if two countries come together in FTA and any company of one country make an investment in another country, they should not go away when another country, apart from the FTA, are giving more benefits. It's looking like a mutual benefit in the long term. So anyone who are complementary, they will come into picture for FTA, otherwise not. The question comes, why this all people are signing FTAs? Why they need it? First and foremost, to promote a trade, having the harmonious development of the both economic, a fair condition of competition between two or more countries, a principle of reciprocity, which is very common when two parties come together. If you're giving me something, I want something from you. Removal of barriers to trade, so that there should be proper expansion of trade worldwide between two countries. Now question comes, we see in a FTA, which is free trade agreement, PTA, which is preferential trade agreement. You have a CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or a CECA, Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. The PTA have the list of positive goods on which you will get the benefit. For example, India needs electronic product. So we can have a PTA, we have the PTA with Korea, where we give lower benefit rate to Korean products coming to India. FTA is completely ulta, reverse, where they will list the products which will not have any lower benefit route or which will be eliminated from the trade between two countries. And if you compare the FTA, PTA with CEPA, CPCA, it's like a FTA is only for a trade of goods. CEPA or CECA is for beyond trade of goods, which includes the services, which include any investment between two countries like FDI relaxation rule or FAI and others part. It also covers a trade facilitation, a customs facilitation, a competition, and last but not the least, intellectual property rights. And you can see now China is number one and India is lagging behind having the number of IPR registered. So now let's see where India stands. If you ask me, the number of FTAs are signed by India in the UPA 1 or UPA 2 regimes. And this government is looking more to review all these agreements based on the Niti Aayog internal research, where they have the various points which we'll discuss in detail. So we have first FTA India entered is with Thailand in 1975. I will not say FTA, but it's a trade accord which we entered that time. And now if you can see, we have multiple bilateral FTA with Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Thailand, Singapore, Bhutan, Nepal, South Korea, Malaysia, and Japan, and China also. If you talk about the RTA, regional trade agreements, we have the SAFTA, you have ASEAN and Mercosur, which is now still under ratification. And the other, which is going to be biggest, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. It will cover European Union, it will cover United States, and number of other countries like Australia, Canada, Japan, Malaysia. And if it happens, it will cover 40% of global GDP and 33% of the world trade. We can expect if it really happens, it will change the scenario the way the world happens. We don't know, looking to COVID situation, and like even the India denied to be part of RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, where China is a leader on that part. And the reason given by India is it is not favorable to our trade. So we will not be part of. So you can see the list here, and mostly all you see are in the Asia, which is covering major is Asia. Your Asia Pacific Trade Agreement, your ASEAN covering the Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia. And please note, we have the maximum imports from Asia because maximum benefit given by India is for the Asian products. Your BIMSTEC covering Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, and you can see number of countries are common in certain agreement. You have a GSTP, Global System of Trade Preference, and you can see mostly all are the FTA, except Indo-Malaysia, CECA, Singapore CECA, Japan, and Korea, where we have the expanded way of looking to FTA from the goods, services, investment, customs, and trade facilitation. Now question comes how India is doing. And if you can see the figure, I will not go in detail, more than 60% of imports are done by India from the Asian countries, covering your East Asia, Oceania, Asian countries, your GCC Gulf countries, West Asia, Northeast Asia, which covers China, and South Asia. So when India is doing in Asia itself more than 60% imports, the question comes how the way India is getting used of getting the maximum benefit of exports. And if you ask me, as per Niti Aayog report, we are not doing well with any of the FTAs. And you can just see the graphs, except Sri Lanka. All the countries we have higher imports and lower exports. And if you see like with Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, we are importing pharma products, capex, you have the agri seeds, agri products, you have the furniture and fixtures, your IT goods, even Vietnam. From last 1.5 years, number of companies moved from China to Vietnam. And you can imagine, so indirectly, we are putting a barrier to China. A Chinese company invested in Vietnam. And so the goods coming from Vietnam may be indirectly shifted from China to Vietnam to India to claim the benefit. And Vietnam is part of Asia. You can just imagine how the way it's going and how the way India is currently into the current picture. So that's all about the current situation about FTA, how India have the number of FTA and how they are doing well. Now question come relevant for our webinar today. Why Carota 21? Why I need to do so much compliance? And before that we go into the detail, we will discuss about the key condition an exporter in the FTA country when they import to India has to fulfill. Then only you will understand what all things you need to take from exporters to comply with the Carota. The first, it should be consigned directly from country where India FTA. Transshipment is allowed, like for example, goods moving from Sri Lanka to India, but in between they go to the Singapore, FTJ. There is no change in the product and come back to India. It's allowed, otherwise it's not allowed. It should be wholly obtained or produced goods, like agri products, mining, your milk products and all. Or if not, then it should be not wholly obtained or produced, means manufactured. I brought inputs, capex from within the country like Malaysia or from outside country, manufacturing the goods, doing the process, making the goods finished product and selling to India. Here I need to satisfy number of conditions to be eligible. First and foremost, every product have a 8-digit tariff heading. The first 2 letters are for chapter, next 2 for subchapter, next 2 for heading, and for last 2 digits is for subheading. It says any material which is coming from outside other country, which is non-originating material, it should go into 6-digit tariff classification change. If the 6-digit tariff classification is not changing, then you will not satisfy the condition. And there is one de minimis rule which allows exception up to 10%. It changes. Please note what we're discussing is only illustrative. And we have taken this from the Malaysia CECA. It may be additional in other Asian or other softer conditions which need to be looked into. Value content. So content, value to be added in the product when it's manufactured within the territory of the exporting party, it should be minimum 35% in direct method, and in that method should be 65%. So what is direct method? I need to look into the FOB value of the product, of the raw material which originates from the particular country. What is the direct labor cost, overhead cost, other cost and profit. And please note the definition of all these types are given in the FTA. I cannot assume any definition based on my understanding. I need to go through that all that will give me the answer for whether I am satisfying the condition or not. In that method, the reverse, where I will see what are the imported raw material they used, which is I know where is origin and which is not origin, and it should be less than 65. So direct and indirect method are reverse of each other. Any method your exporter can use justify he is eligible to take a country of origin certificate. So accordingly, importer in India can take the benefit. Now other conditions, if your exporter is doing such process, it is not eligible for any of the benefit under COO and FTA. If you're doing only preservation of goods, Like currently Gubba do preservation of seeds and all the other preservative items. If the same is done by the exporting country to India, it will not be considered for the export benefits. Any simple operation like removal of dust, shifting or screening, not allowed. Changes of packing material. I am only changing a packing material, not allowed. Simple cutting, slicing, putting in bottles, flasks, again not allowed. Only putting a labels or marks. Generally, any people do in the FTZ, free trade zone, or a free trade warehousing zone, that's also not allowed. Any mixing of goods, again not. Assembly of parts of goods, sorry, again it is not eligible. Disassembly, I am doing CBU or partial CBU or the completely unpart, that's also not allowed. Slaughtering, not eligible. Only dilution with water, also not eligible. So we have seen change in tariff classification, your value content of minimum 35%, certain process are not considered production. So you need to look into all this aspect of respective FTA we are claiming the benefits. And accordingly, then only you can understand and appreciate how Carotar will be applicable and how you need to comply with that. So that all we discussed about the FTA and all. Now we are going to discuss the main content of today's, which is Carotar. So if you see in the budget of February 20, Section 28DA was introduced in Customs Act 1962 by Chapter VAA. And that time, no one has taken it seriously. People thought government will not implement it. But looking into the situation with our neighboring country, in 21st August, they issued notification and circular telling that by 21st September, this regulation is going to apply. So they're given already 1 month for people to do it. But when I discuss with our clients and all, yes, they still not decided how to proceed. Getting all this data from exporter is mostly not possible. Who will use data? If I am a manufacturer and I am exporting any goods to other country, why should I disclose my production process, my margins, my content? So indirectly you can say it's a question mark on availing the benefit. If you have all details and documents, you can, otherwise not. So today we are going to discuss all this part in today's session, how it is impacting you and what you need to comply with. So who needs to comply with? If you are a manufacturer, even that one was our initial content we shared with all people to join this session, a trader or a service provider. If you are importing raw materials or a capital goods, even a traded goods, just to import and sell in India, or consumables. In all these cases, if you are claiming the preferential rate benefit, you have to comply with these rules, certain aspect before getting the goods into India and certain aspect after goods coming into India and you are filing the bill of entry. So what importer needs to comply with, we need to understand. So first and foremost, he needs to declare certain aspects in the bill of entry. Before 21st September, I am just selecting the notification number and just attaching it a soft copy or giving a hard copy to the custom officer. My goods get cleared and I am getting the concessional benefit. But same thing will not remain after 21st September. And we will discuss in detail what all things needs to be declared, how to declare in the bill of entry. You need to know the respective direct notification. Today, CHA or a custom broker knows everything. He will take CO and he will mention in the bill of entry. Mostly a logistic team or a custom team of the company will be least bothered because you have a COO, which is the main document to claim the benefit. Today, if any question comes, it will come to the exporter. Now being the responsibility and obligation shifted to importer, you also need to know which notification are you eligible for particular product, what is the concession given, and if any condition applicable beyond your FTA. You need to produce CO for each product. Today I get one CO from EIC, Export Inspection Council, and they just replicate it. Even we have a particular experience when once we are given documents, next time we can just ask them to print and give it to us. They will never ask again whether you are again continuing and complying with the conditions. That's going to change with all the country where India is exporting now, getting as imports. In the regulation, they have issued one Form I. In Form I, you need to have adequate records and sufficient information from the date of bill of entry till next 5 years. So you need to retain this Form I data for every bill of entry. Please note, every bill of entry is a self-assessment under customs. If you're doing 1,000 shipment in a year, you will need 1,000 Form I to be maintained for every bill of entry for next 5 years. It will have 3 things. One is country of origin criteria about the process, tariff classification, wholly obtained or not wholly obtained, and other condition. Then you need a regional value content, and then you need a product specific criteria. So these are only 3 criteria. Please note, content of inside what all, it will be in detail, which we are going to discuss. And apart from record, you need to have a supporting documents. So if you have not started communicating with exporter, apart from getting a COO and giving a purchase order, getting the invoice and bill of lading, please start doing it. It's very important point. It's a very qualitative, but it's a headache to the all importers going to claim this benefit. I will read it and then you will discuss what does it mean. Exercise reasonable care to ensure the accuracy and truthfulness of the aforesaid information and document which you are retaining in Form I and others. Reasonable care shifted to importer from exporter. And what is the meaning of reasonable? There are number of judgment in income tax and indirect tax, and it always depends on discretion of officer to say how the way it's reasonable or not. We will discuss all the queries in the Q&A session. Let's first analyze how it's impacting, then we will take all apart. The accuracy and truthfulness. The truthfulness is very biased word. Something can be true for you, not for me. It's like true or false. How will I say one condition, the way I look into and the way you look into it has been satisfied? Now it will be completely expert or consultant role will be more played. To say Indian part say no, that condition is not satisfied. You truthfully not complied with. And they say it's satisfied because I need to look into the intricacy of my data. Then every importer has to keep record and he will submit the proffer of his own request. So anytime they can ask you to submit data, And if you do not have, go into the scrutiny, DRI and all will come into picture. So that all about the obligation overall. One question from Venugopal I will take now, because it's between for this Karutar and mistakes and or non-compliance comes to importer or CHA. The liability is mainly on importer, but custom authority have power because it's start with importer or an agent. Indirectly, they are putting an obligation on CHA or custom broker also. So it's very important for custom broker also to look into what documents and all are available with importer, and then only suggest to have this. Other queries I will take it later. Let's first understand what to be declared in the bill of entry. So earlier I need to just declare my tariff notification and over, and I can give my hard copy or soft copy to custom officer. Now I have to give a COO reference number, which will be available on the CO issued by any EIC Export Inspection Council. Date of issuance of COO I need to have. Third is very important area, which criteria you are satisfying. It means I need to look into every FTA which I am claiming benefit. I should know what all criteria are there in the FTA or PTA or CECA or CEPA, and then I should have documentary proof, and then only I can write there which criteria is being satisfied by exporter. Indicate if accumulation or cumulation is applied. It means now India have ASEAN or a SAFTA, we have multiple countries involved. It may be possible finally goods are coming from Thailand, but first part of the production is done in Sri Lanka and balance part is done in Thailand. So the country of origin is satisfied even from a Sri Lanka perspective and Thailand perspective. In that case, accumulation or accumulation will be applied, and still you will get the benefit under FTA. Indicate the COO is issued by third country. For example, you have a transshipment or it's moving from multiple countries. It is not coming from, for example, Thailand. It is only coming from, for example, Singapore. In that case, you need to know what is our Singapore treaty and whether they are satisfying the Singapore treaty benefit or not. Indicate if goods have been transported directly from CO. You should know who the shipping line, where he went, whether the goods moved out from the ship or a plane. Is there any change in bill of lading in between? Because we done one engagement 10 years back with one auto OEM where the bill of lading was planned to change at Singapore. So not to have one specific requirement on that part. Uploading of CO. Now you cannot give the CO to officer. You need to upload it. I will take all the queries after this part. Image reference number. So IRN number is required in IceGate on particular part in the BE statement to be given. That also to be provided on supporting document by CHA or by importer. Correct country code in transit country field. If it's a multiple country, then you should know what code you need to mention. And self-declaration, please note, self-declaration is like you are showing I am truthful, I know the accuracy, I know I have taken a reasonable care. You need to declare in the bill of entry. And every bill of entry is self-assessment at IceGate in the BE statement, codified as a CUFO2 for every product and notification. Last but not the least, COO to be defaced. mandatorily before out of charge. They want CO to be used one time. It means you cannot use same CO for next shipment. Please note, today I have seen they just go print it and all, and they use it. Tomorrow it will not be possible. So I will take now one queries because a number of questions are coming on that. What documents required from the exporters and in declared format? Yes, we are discussing now in the next slides. So I will take this point next. Certain things came in chat. Let me also. So I will put the document part next slides. Any PT or FTA between Germany and India and between UK and India, it's going to be there. Already I seen PTT, which we are discussing, TPP, where European Union and USA and Canada will be part of. It's going to be biggest PTA India will have. And I request all to please put your queries, and we will take now all the queries after this completion session. So this about the obligation and declaration in the bill of entry. Now let's see how the way the Mumbai Customs has issued one circular, and they have mentioned how you need to define the country of origin particulars, about the country code, about in transit issue, any issue date in the DD, MM, YYY format, number and issue date. You need to separate it by pipe. For every product, you need to give it. But it has a wholly obtained criteria or not wholly obtained criteria, or PSR, product specific rule criteria. That also need to know and put in your bill of entry. Then whether I told you general rule of PSR rule, you need to know that also to be mentioned. Also in the B statement, bill of entry statement, you need to take the data from the statement code, it is CUF02. Otherwise, your bill of entry will not be considered and accepted. So now let's discuss about the document detail you need to submit beyond declaration in bill of entry. So Form I is a document which you need to have for every bill of entry for 5 years. Now, we need to understand this diagram, which is completely giving the full picture, how the way you need to comply with these rules, and then we will go into section 2 and section 3. So this first question is imported goods wholly obtained? It's agri mining, you can say yes, like even coal and all. And yes, you no need to do anything. It's a origin criteria and you can still go and file it. If it is a produced good, it's a manufactured goods, then you need to see whether general rule applied or a product specific rule applied. In both scenario, you need to look into the value content, change in tariff classification, check if build up or build down, which is a direct method, in that method on value content applied. You need to see a de minimis, DEMINIMS rule applied or not. That's about the flow of Form I need to be taken into picture. And now we'll discuss about section 2, which you need to file it after filing the bill of entry to the custom authority. It covers data you need to have, importer, which you already know who is there, bill of entry number and date, custom station with a Navasava or any ICD or any other port, goods on which preferential rate of duty has been claimed. I need to give all details and keep it with me. Very simple data, correct? You can see nothing. It's very simple, no need to worry about. Now let's discuss about the section 3, which is very important, and you need to have all this data before having goods imported into India. Please note, from 21st September onwards, if you did not comply with this, there are a number of non-compliance, which we will discuss in detail in the next slides. Section 3 covers part A. The part A, you need to have a complete production process undertaken in COO, country of origin. The one paper of page COO issued by Export Inspection Council of respective country will not help you. You need to have a complete production process, how many stages, how the raw material came into picture, what process undertaken in within the country, what is other country, and all. And please note this wording is very small but covers a enlarged documentation and data to be captured. Origin criteria claim, which we discussed in the section 1 also, whether it's wholly obtained or not wholly obtained. What about the regional value content about local raw material, and change in tariff codes for the non-originating material. Then you need to have a questionnaire for every product, for every bill of entry, for every COO. A questionnaire only for not wholly obtained goods. If you're importing only oil or a coal or a mining products or agri products, then no need to worry. If you're doing suppose import of agriculture or sorry, electronic products, mobiles, like from South Korea, Vietnam, these are countries who are importing number of electronic products and capex to India. You need to keep this questionnaire describing origination of each raw material. Please note each. So if the exporter is using 20 raw material, you need to have a description of each raw material, components which is using as part of, which is consumed or not consumed as a part of finished products, manufactured by producer or procured locally from third party. When you are procuring from third party, you need to take a confirmation about proof of origin. So back to back supply chain also needs to be looked into. If origin of any of the components used in manufacture of final good cannot be ascertained, same should be treated as non-originating. Please note, if you are not able to justify its origin with detail, it come into the non-originating. And again, I will emphasize originating means manufactured or produced within that country who is exporting to India, and non-originating means which is coming from other country to that country. And look into COVID situation, and GST date is not extended. People will have to take again one more chance to go through. I can understand, because the detail they are asking, it's phenomenal, and the way India is now not a good rapport with some other countries nearby and all, getting this data also will be very difficult. This following criteria for each originating material or component used in production needs to be maintained. So what are that? De minimis rule applied. What I told you is, if the change in tariff classification is not complied with, so there is one exemption up to 10% of that content, but it all depends on the specific FTA. It's not available in every FTA. Accumulation means multiple country. I am satisfying the country of origin. I should not describe the manner and extent of accumulation. I should know how much they done production in process production in Sri Lanka and then in Thailand. Additional criteria may be indirect or packing material, and how this criteria have been complied with. And when this value content is 35% or a 65% indirect method, you need to know about each and every component. Please note, how an exporter will give his cost matrix, his production process, his margin to you. Will you not manufacture itself when you know everything? So indirectly, yes, getting this data and availing this benefit will be going to be very tough. When tariff jump rule, the tariff jump rule means I should move from the ABC tariff to DEF, but I am directly moving to GHI based on one CON norms and other norms. Then I need to provide detail about that. And when process rule applied, specify such rule, which rule you are being followed and how it's being complied. If you can see that you need to maintain the data in that way, it's like a SVB questionnaire. If you all know, if anyone is complying with, you have so many queries comes in SVB questionnaire, special valuation branch. In same way, you now need to maintain this data for every bill of entry we are claiming the benefit, putting yes, no, and then giving detail with documents and evidence. Only putting yes, no without having document, detail and evidence, it is insufficient document and you are on the radar of the officer. And if you're getting the CO issued retrospectively, if we are, today you are importing, but CO date is coming from 1 year back or 6 months back, then again you need to provide regions. So that's all about the document things to be maintained in the Form I, declaration of bill of entry and all. Now question, if anyone is not doing compliance even for a one bill of entry where the benefit is claimed, how it will impact them and what are the obligations? There will be compulsory verification. Please note compulsory verification where importers fail to provide his data within 10 days from the bill of entry under verification. If they issue you notice, no extension, within 10 days they are not giving compulsory verification at your premise also. Establish that the importer has failed to exercise. There is a qualitative thing again, a reasonable care to ensure accuracy and truthfulness of the information furnished to customer. It's completely the lookout of the individual and discretion of the officer, and accordingly he can tell you, you have not given the full data based on my satisfaction. If you've seen, there's a very common thing, identical goods, similar goods in customs. Identical goods is mainly the same product, having the same content and all, and produced by multiple vendors. In that case, they can stop giving the preferential treatment to all the identified goods. So indirectly, it will not impact you. It will also impact all your industry players. तो इनडायरेक्टली आप देख सकते हो कि अगर मुझे बेनिफिट नहीं मिला किसी को भी नहीं मिलेगा, बट एक बार वो बेनिफिट रुक गया, that it means your benefit is gone for an industry person. Indirectly, one player is impacting everyone. Even the industry association should look into and should train and guide their industry players. It is not the responsibility of only one importer or a broker or a CHA. It also covers an entire industry for a particular product which they are regularly importing. They can issue a notice to you to demand duty with interest. Please note, whatever taken benefit, you need to pay back with interest, along with pay penalty. And penalty is equal to your duty, or more than that also, based on fraud or anything. And using this reasonableness, truthfulness, and carefulness, you can understand how the way the fraud and other aspects will also come into picture. They can confiscate your goods. And in customs, there is a prosecution up to 7 years. They can put you behind bar up to 7 years for any non-compliance for this also. So that's all about the implication on any importer who are not complying with. Now come, what are the powers of the proper officer, custom authority or a principal commissioner? And please note it is applicable pan-India. It's not like your initial came this faceless assessment or a clearance of goods only in Bangalore and Chennai. Now from October applicable to everywhere. They can verify the importer's claim anytime. They can take the information in Form I other data from importers. during customs clearance or thereafter. Anytime they can stop you and ask data. If you are not submitting data with sufficient evidence, they can ask your exporter country to give data. And then we'll decide, and verification authority means authority from a exporter country, so they can go beyond you also. Pending verification, they may suspend your benefit. They may permit only provisional assessment, where you need to give security deposit, or they may ask you to pay duty with interest. Also, they have power without verification. Also, they can take some action. So, with verification and without verification, both scenarios they can stop your benefit. If COO is incomplete and not in accordance with the format prescribed in ROO, any alteration done by the issuing authority, which is not authenticated, produced after validity period expired for COO. Every COO have one valid period for that. Issued for an item which is not eligible for benefit. So that was a power with verification, without verification of the proper officer below commissioner. And commissioner may have the additional power where importers say, I don't want to claim the benefit, or they believe that data available is not sufficient evidence and do not meet the origin criteria, let's stop giving benefit. So we have discussed about the FTA, what are the conditions to be complied with, what is the Carotar, what are the overall obligation of importer and the CHA, what I need to declare in the bill of entry, what are the implications if I am not putting the adequate document form I and evidence. I need to have a reasonableness of accuracy and truthfulness. What are the power of officers and the commissioner, even having the confiscation and penalty on me. And now, why all we need it in current situation? So based on Niti Aayog analysis and current situation, we are following regions that India is not getting the benefit, which we have seen in the earlier charts. The ASEAN, SAFTA, Korea, Japan, they are getting more benefits. Their products are getting consumed more in India. And our exports to that country are very minimal. And obvious region, China is diverting from Asian countries like Vietnam through Bangladesh or other countries to us and taking the benefit. And please note, our 24% imports come from Asian region out of 100, which we've seen in the data given. And the major countries are Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam. All our neighboring countries. Vietnam is also importing us the electronic capex machines, mobiles, ECs. Malaysia is famous for your all furnitures and all. Today's number of furnitures and interiors people targeted goes to China and other countries and take the benefit. So that's all about the why you need that rules and all. Now question come, what an importer should do. We know about the Carotar, we know about the requirement. What are next steps? Because already these rules have been implemented. We are on 29 September. Today is the 9th day when they're declaring all the data in the bill of entry. So point comes, what should be done? Any time at the clearance or other time they can come and ask you all this data and you need to give within 10 days. Bifurcate your all the imports from group company and non-group company. Getting data from group company is easier. because you will maintain the confidentiality and secrecy, no issue for them. Getting data from a non-group company will be challenging, and yes, it's going to impact. So please know what all importers and exporters you have and claim benefit. Determine wherever you're claiming the benefit under FTA. What type of benefit? How much benefit you're claiming in a year? Whether it's a CB analysis done or not after these rules. What are the conditions needs to be complied with in a respective FTA, whether I'm doing or not? Are you connected with the exporter beyond getting CO and giving orders and all? Because mostly all this done with the marketing of the client or a customer vendor. So beyond that, do you have any data? Did you connect with them to get this all detail, or still you are in deliberation? Yes, we will able to get it once it starts and all. And look into COVID situation, yes, all are working from home, whether they will be able to give or not. Inform the exporters for your requirement. Please note, without having the backup of legal backing, no one will give data to you. You can queue them from the business perspective and from the compliance to India perspective. We will not able to take the goods from you if I am not getting this data from this date. If you do not have such arrangement and the commercial terms with the city, you will never get this data, and tomorrow it will impact you very negatively, because whatever benefit you claimed, apart from that, penalty, interest, confiscation, imprisonment, all comes into picture. CHA, custom broker are very big players in this scenario. So regularly handle with the all movement of goods, getting the preferential rate. Please discuss with them, having the complete new procedures where they should not file a bill of entry till having all the data given by the importer. It's indirectly benefiting to each other. And so CHA also can be more diligent and giving this requirement to them. Very important, a periodical diagnostic review, because FTA conditions are very different in respective FTAs, and you need to know which complied, which are not complied with, based on aspect given by exporter and based on your understanding. And one important point, in case any debate is there between FTA and this Carotar, FTA will prevail. Rules of origin will prevail. It's very clear. Carotar cannot sit on ahead of the FTA or rules of origin. Please highlight the risk in any FTA where you feel you will not get data, or you feel it's completely a bogus claim or anything. Be honest from your side to save your organization having this surprising thing, because they can check anything at any level. And nowadays, data analytics with IceGate, income tax, FEMA, GST are playing together. Getting the data in minute way is not so very challenging for government. So data science and all are being played very well. And now government is in a very strong shape where they can challenge any benefit based on the deal with have. So that's about the today's discussion we done. And if we do a recap, and then we can take all the queries. So we learned about currently what all FTA India have, and you need to know which FTA you are claiming the benefit. For country of origin, what condition you are fulfilling and what not from the exporter side, you should be aware of. Days are gone where you are just taking the benefit and sitting back. Now, it's not possible now. You need to have all the data with you. We learn about what is Carotar, how it works, and what obligation they put to you. What is your overall responsibility beyond detailed declaration in the bill of entry and putting data? What will you declare in the bill of entry? Because now only putting a notification will not help you. What are the impact of non-compliance if you are not doing compliance on this part? What is the power of proper officer, principal, commissioner, and can they ask you? and action plan for importer, CH and exporter. Please get the data from exporter. Getting it is must without even getting your goods consigned to India. So that's all on the Carota 2020 knowledge session. And now I will request Deepti ji to, we can take some queries and all from already certain queries we have already taken. But just look into the curiosity of this new topic where no one is aware of how it will impact. It's very important to understand what all doubts people have. We will try to solve it. In case still we are not able to, because even we are new to them and law is new, you can drop us a mail or drop me a WhatsApp. We can discuss in detail and I can clarify. Deepti ji, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Vineet ji. So let's go ahead with the Q&A sessions. There are a few questions in the chat section, Vineet ji. So,
Just
shall
a minute, I will open it.
that? Vineet ji, shall we go ahead from that?
Yeah, so I think a certain query, just a minute, I have opened it. So what documents required from exporter we discuss in detail. So whatever requirement in Form I on the production criteria, on regional value content criteria, on value content criteria, and this criteria are very expanded in scope. You have to go through respective FTA and ask all this data from their side. You simply put this detail to your exporter, he will understand because they are complying with, and they should be able to give you all this data to you. Second query already been taken with Germany and UK. We are in the deliberation, India. And maybe we can see in the next 1 year and all, we will have the FTA, like TPP with the US, European Union, Canada and all we will have. How will transactions done on house bill of lading and master bill of lading be affected, and transshipment cargo be affected on switch BL? A switch BL is very common, but switch bill of lading, BL is bill of lading, but it will not change the country of origin criteria. Please note. With a house BL or master BL or switch BL, finally you need to look into it from which country is originating. It's mostly common to transshipment and all, or it's accumulation criteria, maybe like in Asia and multiple country. You need to look into it from the FTA perspective, then come to the Form I and all, and then you need to comply with. If you're claiming the benefit under FTA, irrespective of which BL you're using, if country of origin is there, preferential treatment is there, comply with Carota 2020. So that is in the chat.
Yeah, so there are some more questions in the Q&A section. But before we take that, I also request the participants to raise your hands in case if you have any questions which are not addressed, such that we can take it up. So going to the Q&A section, Mr. Benugopal is asking, for this Carota, any mistakes or non-compliance comes to importer or CHA, the liability part?
We will be discussing that part, and again we will reiterate you. The Carota regulations say importer or an agent. So indirectly they are covering the agent. But major responsibility comes on importer, and in case they have given a power of attorney or anything to the C agent, and they say it's an obligation of yours to collect data and all, then in that case, yes, it will be in trouble for the CHA also.
Okay. The next question is from Mr. Sanjay Savant. What documents required from the exporter? Any declared formats?
So that we discussed in the Form I about the origin criteria, product specific criteria, and value content criteria. You need to all the data, and please note even production process. What are originate raw material? What is non-originate raw material? And also components. So all this you will be required. So please refer again a Form I, which will give detail about what document to be prepared and maintained.
Okay. Next question is also from Mr. Benugopal. Is there any FTA or PTA with Australia?
It's under process, and the way the issue with China. Already we have one FTA with China, but not giving maximum benefit, very limited benefit. But yes, India is expanding its scope to the other countries which are not friends with China. You can see even Australia and all, we can see the FTA coming into picture. And any FTA, PTA between China and India, yes, we have, but not completely implemented.
Right. Mr. Sushant is asking any PTA. Yeah, you just answered about it. China
Yes,
and India, right? Yeah. Another question from Mr. Sanjay Sawant is production process. Will exporter give? It's confidential.
It's a very good query. Yes. Question is whether they will give. Even I will ask you, you will give when someone is asking you. You will not. So now it's completely your commercial terms, how the way you are connected with them and how they understand the regulation in India. Else they will lose the business. You can see more than 62% imports currently India is doing with all these countries where we have FTAs. So these countries will not prefer to lose it. Either they will do a representation to India government, not be harsh, we will check from our side, or your exporter needs to provide the data. Please note, you do not have a choice. Either forego taking the benefit or you want to claim with full details. It's confidential, but yes, there is a way to share with. Even today with DSIR, with Income Tax Authority and with the trademark, with IPR, people share their details. We can have an NDA or something with you, they can have, and they can share with you. You will share only with the custom officer only. You will not share with third party. All this can be possible. You can have the NDA with them and they can share with you.
Right, can get that. So with that, we have completed the questions from the Q&A section. And we have two hands, again, Sanjay Sawant and Carote 2020. So I'll just unmute Carote 2020. We'll see what they have to talk.
Sure.
Could you please unmute yourself? Okay. Since there is no response, I'll lower the hands. And yeah, I would like to request a couple of participants to share their experience, what they got from this webinar, from this session, a small feedback. Please raise your hands, your virtual hands, which you find a raise hand option on your screen, in the bottom of your screen. Great. So Mr. Yugandhar Reddy has raised his hand. Please unmute yourself and talk. Mr. Yugandhar Reddy, please unmute yourself and talk. There is a small mic icon in the bottom left of your screen. You can use that. Okay, until he figures that out, anybody else who would like to go? I think Mr. Yugandhar is not able to unmute himself.
Yeah, someone has put some, I think, chat.
Yes, yes. So Mr. Anil Kumar is saying, thank you for this webinar, and it was good inputs on FTA, PTA, CEPA, and Corota 2020. Thank you.
Thanks, Anilji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so with this, we have actually come to the end of this webinar. And I thank each of the participants for your valuable time given to this program. I hope this webinar has added value to your knowledge, and we hope that you make use of the inputs taken from this session. And the knowledge provided by Mr. Darda was very much in detail, and specific, right from documentation, product specific, facilitating claiming benefits, and a lot more. I sincerely thank Mr. Darga for this collaboration, and we hope to do much more in the future. Lastly, I would like to thank Raj and Naveen from Team Guba for facilitating smooth functioning of this event. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.